Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Define Disaster. This is Battlefield 4, and today, in form of a follow-up video to my 2016 attachment guide, we're going to be talking about common attachment combinations and how to use those combinations to adapt your gun to the role and playstyle you want it to. Now, I've gotten quite a lot of positive feedback regarding my 2016 attachment guide. At the same time, however, I've gotten quite a few questions also regarding how to combine attachments to get a desired effect on your weapon. For example, extending the range of a close quarter weapon or making a longer range rifle more accurate while still maintaining its easy usability, etc, etc. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video today. We're going to be covering three main attachment combinations. Of course, these are not the only combinations in the game, and you may prefer a different combination. Also, I don't use only these three combinations. I also vary. Certain guns require kind of special treatment, etc, etc. But a lot of my guns have one of these three attachment set combinations, and we're going to be going through those combinations today, as well as explaining why I use them and what effect they have on the guns I use them. As per usual, however, if you're kind of unclear on what all the attachments do, I have already made a video on that, and I will link my attachment guide down below in the description if for some reason you've just stumbled on this video and have no clue about attachments in Battlefield 4 and how they function given the latest patch. But with all that being said, let's start with the first attachment combination. Now, the first combination of attachments we're going to be talking about today encompasses the angled foregrip and usually the compensator, alternatively also the muzzle brake or the suppressor, depending on what you prefer and what gun you're slapping it on. But basically, this loadout aims to improve the overall usability of guns like the AEK F2000 or FAMAS at medium range, allowing them to be a little bit more flexible and allowing them to be used in game modes other than TDM to a reasonable degree of effectiveness as well. Say something like Rush or Conquest has largely varying combat distances, and having a gun that only performs well in close quarter combat can be quite troublesome, especially when there's lacking cover to close the gap. And the angle foregrip, of course, helps with tap firing hugely, reducing, of course, that first shot recoil multiplier, which usually comes in a quite high addition on these close quarter weapons with high fire rates. The compensator helps, of course, with that horizontal recoil, which is very difficult to control on a weapon, and of course quite prevalent on these higher fire rate weapons, and of course at longer ranges, unlike close quarter, makes a big difference to your accuracy. Now, if you find that the vertical recoil is much more troublesome to your gun than the horizontal recoil, then feel free to slap on the muzzle brake. I personally just find it to be too little of a help to actually make a difference. The suppressor, of course, if you're only going really for the close quarter combat and only occasionally need a little bit of help with the medium range combat. So that's basically the attachment combination I will use on something like an F2000 or AEK if I'm running in Rush or Conquest versus exclusively TDM. Now, the next combination of attachments we're talking about are aimed once more at the same group of weapons as before, the close quarter, high fire rate, high recoil weapons. However, in this case, exclusively for use in close quarter combat, something like TDM, where you do not need the flexibility of your gun. So you do not need your AEK to work at mid-range, you just need it to blow people's heads off clean in close quarter. And in this case, you're probably going to, when you use something like a vertical grip, more likely than not a laser sight. You can always slap on a laser sight or you can leave it away depending on if you feel it's giving your position away, but I would more likely use it in this attachment combination, and usually also a suppressor. Now, why would you use all these combinations? What are the effects that they have together? Well, first of all, of course, you're staying off the minimap, vital for something like TDM. More importantly, however, you've got excellent accuracy while moving thanks to your vertical grip and laser sight. Your hip fire is off the charts, and you can also move around comfortably while shooting your gun. This allows you to kind of be a little bit more flexible. You don't have to stop and shoot, and you're more likely to win kind of clutch engagement firefights where you just run into your enemy and quickly have to down them without having time to aim down sight. Now, if you're somebody who's having trouble with the first shot recoil of your weapon, you could technically go back to the previous setup with an angled foregrip and a suppressor. However, in only a few weapons, I would actually recommend using that. Maybe something like the FAMAS, but something like an AEK or an F2000, if you can get hold of that recoil, that vertical recoil, you can control it. I would actually recommend sticking to something like a vertical grip with a suppressor on it to allow you the highest degree of accuracy possible while moving. The last combination of attachments is not geared towards close quarter weaponry, but actually towards long distance engagement, assault rifles, or maybe also your occasional DMR, and consists usually of once more an angled foregrip, and in this case a heavy barrel. I would actually not recommend slapping on a laser sight in this combination because it will actually just give away your position on longer distance combat, because it'll of course blind your enemy. They'll see your laser sight, and of course if you're trying to be sneaky or trying to get those headshots off with a DMR, you don't want half the enemy team knowing where you are and trying to come and get you. You're going to lose your surprise effect that is actually quite important for long distance combat, because you do not want your enemy running behind cover before you've had a chance to actually shoot at them. Now, why the angled foregrip? Well, of course, this is very important for when tap firing at your enemy, which even with weapons like the SAR 21, which can be used in full auto at longer ranges as well, usually is more effective than going fully auto on your enemy, especially when we're talking about distances of 70 to 100 meters, where very few assault rifles actually can even compete with something like a DMR or a sniper rifle. There are a few, but then you really want the angled foregrip. If the gun you're using isn't really going to benefit from the angled foregrip because the first shot recoil is so extremely low, then you may want to actually slap on once more one of those vertical grips, allowing you to strafe at longer ranges. So there's basically two ways to run this longer range loadout: one with an option to strafe more and be more accurate while moving, the other with the option to be more accurate while tap firing. It will really depend on your weapon, if you've got a higher first shot recoil multiplier or a lower first shot recoil multiplier. However, pretty much universally, you're going to want to slap on a heavy barrel, unless of course it makes the recoil too difficult to control. But usually in the case of these weapons, the recoil is so low that adding 50% to the vertical recoil doesn't really make any significant difference. At least that is the case with the SAR 21, and the AR 160 is still very much manageable with a heavy barrel. At longer ranges, the additional accuracy will benefit you. However, if you're noticing that your accuracy isn't as good because of course the recoil is affecting you, then get rid of the heavy barrel. Preferably just go with a standard barrel, no barrel attachment, just to maintain that accuracy, because of course it's not going to help you if your shots are more accurate but you are not placing your shots as accurately because you can't deal with the vertical recoil. Now, with those three attachment combinations being covered, you may be wondering, what about the rest of the guns in the game? Your average assault rifle, PDW, carbine. Well, I kind of run these guns geared towards medium to close quarter range with a little bit of long range potential. Pretty much all the same. A vertical grip, depending on how much close quarter combat I expect. Maybe a laser sight, a red dot sight, and usually no barrel attachment, because I simply find no need for the additional accuracy and don't want to deal with the additional recoil that the heavy barrel will give me. You can slap on a compensator or muzzle brake if you feel that it helps you perform better with the gun. However, I usually find that to be unnecessary, and let's just leave my barrel naked. Now, with all that being said, I hope this video was informative, was useful to you guys out there. Hope to clear up some questions that you had. If you still have any questions or you use different attachment combinations to my main three, feel free to leave that down below in the comments. I'd be happy to help, and of course interested in why you would use a different combination and to what effect and what to success. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next Battlefield 4 video.